Well, hey folks, my name is Brad, and today I am way up in the mountains of Vermont with my metal detector to see what we can find around these ruins of an old farm. Now, they were here the end of the 1700s, but this building was gone by the middle of the 1800s, so nobody has lived here for over 150 years. So I'm pretty optimistic we're gonna find some good old stuff today. I'm not really sure what kind of farmers they were, whether they had livestock like sheep or whether they were growing potatoes or barley, but there is just the biggest bank barn I have ever seen right here. You can see I'm standing on the top of it. It goes this way. It's probably a 10-foot drop here. So whatever they were doing, this was a big operation, and I'm not gonna waste any more time. I'm gonna get out my metal detector, see what we can find here. Oh man, so I've talked about this a lot in recent videos, that if you find a shotgun shell and the number is, say, a 60 on the metal detector, and then you get another 60, you dig it, and it's another shotgun shell, all of the 60s in this little area, at least to me, feel like they're going to be shotgun shells. They become a lot less exciting, and I'm a lot less careful when I dig, and that is exactly what just happened. I found 2 shotgun shells, got another target in the same range, and it appears to be, a Colonial shoe buckle. It doesn't make any sense why it rang so low, but I think that I broke it with my shovel, with my hasty digging. But then again, I say that, I'm looking at it, and the ends appear to be maybe an old break. So if that's the case, that would make me feel a lot better. Yeah, you know what? I didn't break this. Phew. But that just goes to show that you should really be careful with every single target you dig, because you just absolutely never know. Yeah, this is an old break. Thank goodness. Man, look at that thing. It has been a while since I have found a Colonial shoe buckle. You can imagine this being on the boot of a person that lived up here probably in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Just like this. Big old thin leather strap going through there. And, I've never seen one quite like it. These very decorative corners like that. So that is an awesome find. A great start to the day. It's got me super optimistic about what we might find elsewhere here. It is brass. I wonder why it rang so low on the metal detector. Yeah, it's not very high at all. It's a mid-tone. Interesting. There it is. Found it anyway. Well, I don't have any idea what this could be, but I got a really nice target. It's this piece of brass right here, and it appears to be attached to a piece of iron. I'm just curious what might be on the other side of this, and maybe we can get to the bottom of what this is. There's another large one there. Now, because this was an active farm, my first thought is it's related to that somehow, but I can't say for sure. Maybe one of you folks out there recognizes this. Not sure at all. Let me know what you think. It's a cool one anyway. Okay, I have just a beautiful 80 right here. Since it is so close to the surface and everything else old has been very deep, this might be modern, but never know. Right here, that is a coin, I believe. Question is it old or new? Anything but a copper here wouldn't make any sense, but what do we have? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's funny. So the date is down here. I gave it a scratch with my thumbnail. It looks like it's a 1906. So this was, without a doubt, dropped here well after this building was gone. This was likely dropped by the same people that were shooting all those shotgun shells earlier. But you know what? It's a coin. I get excited about coins because they tell a story with the date. This was probably already ruins, a cellar hole. They thought maybe it was a good spot to hunker down and and hunt. And, you know, maybe they took a shot. What were they hunting? Maybe squirrel? Maybe deer with a slug. But maybe they missed. So they had to reach in their pocket to get another shell out. The coin fell out of their pocket. Who knows? It's a pretty cool find anyways. See if we can find stuff maybe 100 years older than this. So I just kind of moseyed on down next to this little stream right here. The cellar's up that way. And I got a pretty good target. I dug it and it was a modern shell casing, a rifle shell. But as I was down there, I spotted something I've only ever seen in the woods one other time. Wild blueberries. Now I know up in Maine, these are pretty much everywhere. But as I mentioned, I've only ever seen these 2 times in Vermont now. So cool. I'm gonna fill my hand, have a little snack, and venture off and see what else we can find here. Well, it would not be a Green Mountain metal detecting video without some buttons. Today has been a weird day for buttons. Typically we find these brass, sometimes old pewter buttons with a shank, much like our buttons today. But the only 3 buttons I've found so far today have not been that at all. This one has a long iron post on it. I have to assume this was like a furniture staple, perhaps for a saddle, but that is a pretty thick piece of leather for that to go through a saddle. And these 2 both have posts on the back. They're both clearly old, but neither of them have a loop shank. They're both what almost appears to be a rivet of some kind, and perhaps that's what they are. I'm almost positive that they are old enough to go along with this site. But why I haven't found any normal buttons, and I'm only finding these, is a mystery so far. Perhaps has something to do with it being a farm. We'll keep searching, see if we can find some more, or maybe some of the normal kind. Well, I just got a target that was so deep, I thought for sure it was going to be a piece of flat iron or a little piece of lead, but as you can probably notice, it is a big round piece of copper. And it was so deep. I'm using this tiny little elliptical coil on the XP Deus, I don't know, 10 inches. So let's take a look at this. Now whenever I find anything this deep, I have to assume that it was plowed under. Things don't really sink through the ground. What happens is they land on the top of the ground, leaves fall, turns into soil, and it slowly builds up. In order to be that deep, it must have been plowed under, and that makes sense because this is somewhat of an agricultural field. You see there is a stone wall right here, and it's a big square that I'm in right now, a ways from the home. So let's see if we can figure out what this might be. Alright, well, shining the flashlight on it sideways, we can just make out some text and what I believe to be the wreath of a U.S. large cent. But flipping it over, unfortunately, this side, it's hard to say. I think I see the top of the head and the ponytail of a draped bust. So that's what we're going to call it for now, and if I get it cleaned up and it's a little bit different, I'll certainly let you know, but I'm pretty sure that's probably right around the beginning of the 1800s, or the late 1700s. That is a huge surprise given what it sounded like on the metal detector. I almost just walked past. I'm glad I didn't. Alright, well, I just somewhat embarrassingly started walking down into the cellar, and my foot literally slipped out from under me. I fell, and I can't make this up. This is what was exposed. Let's take a look. Wow. Look at that. That has got to be one of the coolest tools I have ever found. Now, what exactly is it? I have one very similar to this that I use for cutting leather, but it's much smaller than this. Man, it is an awesome shape. It's like barely rusty. It was underneath this rock. This is the rock I stepped on and I fell. And man, look at that thing. It would have had a wooden handle, obviously. The whole thing is iron. This, thing that would have gone up into the handle looks like it was forged and then split, put on either side of this cutting blade, and then riveted in place. Man, that is 100% getting a new handle and getting hung on the wall. That is the find of the day. Sometimes when we find iron out here in the ground, it is beyond recognition. Sometimes we just don't know what it is. Its intended purpose was for a tool or a machine that just doesn't exist anymore. But this I recognize as a cutting tool, although I'm not exactly sure what it was intended for cutting. And I'm certainly going to clean it up and put it on a handle, at least hang it on my wall. Maybe I'll sharpen it and cut some leather with it. We'll see. So the targets have been quite slow here. I'm not finding a ton of stuff, so resorting to digging some of the targets that are not great, usually iron, or sometimes just falling down and accidentally finding things. I'm going to try not to do that anymore and, do my best, see if we can find a few more things today. Well, a lot going on in this hole. Ant's nest. They're all carrying away their larvae there, panicking. I got a really nice target right on the edge of the cellar here, and it's this twisted up, what I believe is an oil lamp, but it is like barely recognizable. But as I was digging the hole, I came across this as well. As you can probably tell, is glass, and it's melted, like really melted. These two things tell a story together. This probably wasn't responsible for this, but unless they had a burn pit right next to the home, right over this log is the hole. It seems like this building would have burnt down at some point. Maybe they rebuilt afterwards, or maybe they just decided that was the time to move out of the mountains. But in any case, woodpecker. In any case, these two things together in the same spot is a pretty interesting coincidence. Pretty cool. All right, well, I'm starting to find buttons with shanks now. I probably got, I don't know, maybe 10 of them now. I don't know why I started the day not finding them, but certainly found them now. And this one is special. At least it's more special than the others I found. When it first came out of the hole, I was, expecting a button. The numbers on the metal detector led me to believe that that's what it was going to be, but I was not expecting there to be this crazy floral design on there. One of the better big brass buttons I've ever seen. Well, this is a pretty cool find, and again, a little bit out of place from when I understand people lived here and when it was abandoned by, but this, well, people my age and younger may not know what this is. They could take some guesses, but this is a mason jar lid. And they had, at one point, maybe some of them still do, these glass inserts in the lid. I'm not entirely sure why they had a glass insert, and to be quite honest, I'm not entirely sure how these worked, and I assume they had like a rubber gasket or something to make the seal, but sometimes they have text on them. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear this one does. So now the question is there a jar down there full of treasure? Coins? I'll check, obviously, but I don't think so, because the lid wasn't attached. There's no glass in here. So, I don't know. We'll look around this area, and if I find a jar of gold coins, you will be the first to know. So I can't believe this. But you can see here, there's a little X of trees. And I was just trying to swing my metal detector in all the hardest places, and I got a very scratchy tone. I dug it, and Another coin. I can't believe it. What a weird day. It does appear to be copper. What do we have here? Man, it's not in great shape, unfortunately. You can see this outer patina is already flaking off. Alright, well, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I just checked the hole again and to see what that iron was. And it still kind of sounds like iron, but I'm getting close to it. Just in case it's another coin, I'm going to film it. It's like right here. Yeah, there it is. It's a nail. So the nail, the coin, that's why it didn't sound very good. Interesting. Alright, let's take a look at that coin. Alright, well, it's been a little while, and we finally can see what is on here. It says 1 cent, as you can see right there in the middle. United States of America, around the outside. A wreath, and on this side, a right-facing bust. Now, I can't actually see this side, but I'm fairly certain this is a draped bust, large cent. And the date would be down here. You can see that there are some scratches there of some numbers possibly, but can't tell out here. If I'm able to tell at home, I'll certainly throw that number up on the screen, but this is, at the latest, the very beginning of the 1800s and possibly the end of the 1700s. So that's a very cool coin, a very cool find. Unexpected. I wish it was in better condition, but we can see what it is. I'm happy about that. Gunshots. And with that, I think we're going to get out of here. It's probably on the next mountaintop over. Sounds like it's pretty far away, but just in case, we're going to go. And it was a surprisingly good day. It kind of went in bursts. Had a pretty good start to the day, very slow for a few hours, another pretty good burst, and we ended on a pretty good high note as well. It's pretty interesting, some of the things we found. Kind of gives us some insight in who lived here, what they did. Perhaps they burned down here. I'm gonna have to do some more research and see if we can confirm that. Got everything I found out here on a rock. Let's take a look. So you really saw pretty much everything that I found today. I do have a full bag of trash, stuff like sheet metal and a ton of shell casings. Those aren't really worth showing, throughout the video, but it is worth mentioning that I did dig my fair share of garbage today. So starting out back, we have our iron stuff. This is probably my favorite thing that I found today. Again, I'm not really sure what they were cutting, but I'm gonna try cutting leather with it. We have our interesting swivel handle thing, not sure. We have our oil lamp and melted piece of glass, mason jar lid. I did wind up with 15 buttons. Those 3 that did not have shanks were the only ones like that I found, and all of the rest of them are pretty standard buttons, with the exception of this one with the really beautiful floral pattern on there. Colonial shoe buckle, which is probably not really colonial. It's probably the early 1800s. They were still in fashion at that point. These are one of my favorite things to find, for sure. And lastly, out front, we have 2 coppers. I cannot read dates of them as of this moment, but I am fairly certain they're both draped bust large cents. So they're, if not the late 1700s, the very early 1800s. Overall, a bit of a slow day, but it turned out all right. All right, folks, well, I want to thank you again for watching. If this is your first time seeing one of my videos, I post one of these every single Friday. So if you like what you saw, consider subscribing. Maybe I'll see you next week. More gunshots. I'm going to jump on my wheeler and get out of here. See you next time.